always trying to, not always, but trying to encourage and be there for them behind the scenes, right? So very rarely you hear or should hear about the VCs because it's always a behind the scenes job, and we don't do much operationally. It's more strategically and guiding and making, opening the doors in the case of funding or in the case of hiring or business development. But it's a CEO's job to go and close that. Okay, long-winded answer, but I want you to understand that. Okay, yeah,
Yeah. So you mentioned about VC's involvement being strategic.
yeah.
Any comments on the recent Flipkart rejig at the top?
How's that related? Yeah,
So
yeah.
now the CEO, none of the founders are the CEO right now. Flipkart,
Fair enough. Yeah.
yeah. So and Puneet Soni, the ex chief product officer Flipkart, he mentioned that now it is being run by a VC.
Mm.
And so any comments on this kind of
So let's not
involvement?
stick to any specific company, but in general, see, if you're a founder of a company, right, and you're the founder CEO, right, um, if you look across the world, like some of the largest companies are where the founders have been CEOs and have gone on to be CEOs for a long period of time, right, including Facebook and if you look, and Larry were involved for a long period of time, right? So most of the time the founders are make a very good CEOs and they scale and the company scales with them. But having said that, as founders, the question to ask yourself is, am I married to the CEO title or do I want to see the company do well? Most founders, when we have this conversation, I have it at seed itself, right? Saying that, will you do this job even if you're not the CEO, right? It's the nature of the business because you don't know at seed stage who will scale, who won't scale. But the real good founders are for building an impactful company, not about title, right? So we want to have an impact in this particular area. I'll go along with it. I'll be the CEO, do the job of raising money, right, as well as building the right team, right, doing the strategic things. And at some point, in fact, most of the time, I hear it proactively, where the founders say that if I don't scale at that point, I'd rather get someone to come and run the company. So it's a more a collaborative decision, and in spite of what media makes it, what you read, it's very rarely that any investor, right, the world can suddenly go and say that today you're out. There are signs that will show that the founder is not able to scale. The founder will realize themselves. The good ones proactively say, I want to bring in a CEO, right? But it's very tough. It's a very emotional decision. So many of them need a little bit of, uh, I would say, encouragement, coax to a certain extent also. But eventually, in a few cases, there is need to bring external CEOs. Not only here, across the board, if you see, there's no one right or wrong answer. If you look at it as a movie and then the hero got slain, then obviously yes. But the movie here is to build something which is impactful for decades. If so, who's the CEO and at any given time is not as important as if you're building a good to great company, where great is all about level 5 leaders. If you've not read that book, go read that, right? So who it's not about them, but it's building, encouraging a team below you and growing it to become a company that will be there for decades. Yeah? And I didn't answer your specific question, but broadly, how do you think about that? Okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if for some reason the business is not doing well over a continuous period, then what could really happen? What means the VC takes control, or you exit, or somebody? What could be different things
Um,
happening?
sure. If the business is not doing well because of market reasons, right? If you picked a wrong market and trying to do whatever you can, and you're not scaling, then I don't think there's anything that can be done, right? So the entrepreneur realizes it, we realize it, we figure out what's the best can we do, right? Can we figure out someone else who's in the adjacent space and we can figure out an exit, right, or something like that, or it doesn't work out, you wind down the company and move on to your next idea, because the most important thing is the time of the entrepreneur also. So nowadays we are seeing more and more young entrepreneurs or more and more first time entrepreneurs, not necessarily young, saying that this is not working, I want to move on, I want to do the next thing, which is absolutely fine. It used to happen in the valley a lot. Now I see that happening in India, and we are comfortable backing those entrepreneurs again because they've learned a lot from that first experience. And that's one kind of thing. Second kind is what we talked about, founders, or there's some issues internally and the company is not scaling because of internal issues. It could be team, or it could be most likely team, right? So whatever that means. Then we try to work with the team, work with the founders to try and fix that, and grow the company. And I would say almost many of the companies go through, I wouldn't call it team issues, but it's growing. When you grow, you need help, right? So not everyone's going to scale at the same level, but finding the right role for everyone and bringing in talent to top, that's the most important thing that as a founder CEO the person is going to do, and we'll help from behind the scenes on that, and hopefully that fixes the issue, and then we go back on trajectory. If not, again, for whatever reason it doesn't work, you'll have to exit some shape or form or wind down. Those are so if you look at that previous chart, exit could be IPO, M&A, or shutdown. All three are these are the three likely. It's very clear. It's one of these three. In the rare cases, there are sustainable companies that keep going and going and going. That happens also, but that's very few. Yeah, without any of those. Yeah.
Just like Flipkart, same thing happened with Housing.com, which has recently acquired PropTiger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just wanted to ask, like, companies like Make My Trip,
Mm-hmm.
they are getting listed on Nasdaq because they cannot get listed on in India's markets, mainly because of the regulation requirements or ICDR requirements. So I just wanted to know, is it happening? There are two things. Are they going to Nasdaq because there are not enough exit opportunities for VCs? Now VCs are acquiring or taking operational control of companies like Flipkart or the Housing.com, mainly because they know that the valuations have been coming down. For Flipkart, it came down twice. So they actually want to move to profitability rather than the scalability, so that there are enough exit options, which we were talking about. I mean, is that the scenario how it is building up? Because earlier when you were operating in the US, you like Atlassian or the for the Facebook, you raised enough funds, but that thing is not really applicable in Indian context. So is that the scenario how it is panning out?
So I think your fundamental question is what happens over time in exit, right? So if you look at India, it's and the availability of funds. If you look at India and compare it to US or China, right? So US is probably 30, 40, close to half a century of venture capital investing experience. So India is, if you look at our fund, it's 10 years old and probably one of the older funds, right? It's a very young ecosystem, venture investment point of view, right? And if you look, I don't remember the exact numbers. If you look at 2011, 12, um, there were about a couple of $1 billion invested in early stage venture capital, and that kind of doubled in 14, 15, 2014, 2015. The amount of dollars jumped, right? And then in 16, it went back to the previous level. So if you look at the amount of dollars that are being invested in India, it's across 200, 300 to 500 companies, if you look at serious funding, and it's a couple of $1 billion broadly, right? So, and that is a more sustainable pace in India given where the market is today. Because if, let's go back, it takes 7-10 years to build a company, right? Even if you take a company like a Flipkart, it's 10-year-old, right? Or close to 10 years. And that's one of the longer history companies, right? So Make My Trip built over a long period of time. We have a company in our portfolio called Book My Show. It's built over 17 years or something like that, right? But it takes time to build companies, and because of that, it also takes time to exit. In general, it takes time to exit. If you look at IPO age in the US, it's about 11 years, average years to IPO. So in India, it's not going to be any lesser, right? So given all this data, 2 points. Is there enough capital available for in India in the startup ecosystem and to grow some of these companies? I think um, on an average, I think there is enough capital to sustain a broad set of companies across at least the sectors I know about. I know there is enough capital. Um, and is there enough exits happening in India? Not yet. It's very early days. We can point to one Make My Trip, we can point to one Just Dial, right? We'll point to very few, Taxi for sure in the M&A, and then there's a few others like that. But both M&A and IPO market in India is very early. That's one of the reasons why a lot more capital will not immediately flow into India. You have to show the whole cycle, you have to exit, venture capital funds have to return money, a multiple of it, then only you'll see more money flowing into India, right? So we are still early in the whole evolution of this VC ecosystem. So it's tough to say. I would say that the good news is, because of what's happening with, first of all, the smartphones and all the demographic dividend and all that we have, and geo launching data plans. So there's a lot of good tailwind behind consumer adoption. So the kind of scale that a taxi for sure or Ola saw, right? What took 3 years, I'm seeing that happen in newer companies in our portfolio. Let's